usually do a jar card now, but I'm not going to do one today. It's amazing how the universe works, and it's not a miracle, and it's not unusual. It's just the way it works. You know, it's just the way it works. Sometimes when I sit in my chair on Monday morning, thank you, Jared. Sometimes when I sit in my chair on Monday morning, the message starts for this Sunday. And sometimes it doesn't start until Wednesday or Thursday. But sometimes it starts on Monday. And I was sitting in my chair, and I had the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, sitting by my desk, and I opened it up to this chapter because there was a blue tag there. You know, there was no rhyme or reason to it, really. And this section was called Contemplating Death. And I started reading it, and I have a lot of underlines, and I have a lot of dots, and I have a lot of stars, and I have a lot of notes in here. And I read through, it's only 7 pages, and I read through it, and I had a really good meditation when I did that. And I thought, maybe I should talk about this on Sunday. And then the voice in my mind was like, Paula, you're going to talk about contemplating death? I mean, they probably have to lock the doors, because who wants to come on Sunday morning and hear about death? I mean, who wants to do that? So I get up from my chair after my meditation, and I go to my desk calendar, you know, which is always good. This was Monday, September 30th, 2024. And the quote for that day was, "We die and we do not die." So I kind of chuckled. I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is the right topic. Maybe this is. So the second day, on Tuesday, I sat down, and I was really like finding some inspiration in those 7 pages, and I was reading it over and over again. And I thought, yeah, I think so. I think this will be the topic. I want to talk about this. And Wednesday comes around, and I'm getting ready to like really pull it together. And this is on my calendar, Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Who knows this morning what will happen tonight? I'm like, okay, all right, I'm getting it. And then Friday. You can't make this stuff up. Friday, October 4th, nothing is wrong. Whatever is happening is just real life. I'm like, okay. All right. I'm going to talk about contemplating death. And the interesting thing about this topic is it has nothing to do with death and has everything to do with life. Because if we are willing and brave enough to contemplate death, it instructs us and gives us all the reason that we should be living a fulfilled and fulfilling life. That's what death does. I mean, who doesn't want a fulfilled life? Anybody? You might not need this talk, but that's what we want, right? Don't we want to feel fulfilled and have a fulfilling life? Well, that's really what this talks about. Because it's not about death. It's about having a fulfilled life. But we're so damn scared of talking about death. We're scared of even mentioning it. Sometimes, you know, Renee and I have gone to an attorney recently to redo our wills, and they're really hesitant about talking to you about it because people are freaked out. I'm like, you're here doing your will. You're talking about death. What are you so scared about? We're scared. It's the one thing that we all have in common. I don't care where you were born, how tall you are, what color your hair is, how much power you think you have, how you've been abused or not abused. It doesn't matter. Death levels the playing field. There's no one getting out alive that I know of. Do you? It's like, we're the same. It's the one thing. People used to say, well, death and taxes. You don't have to pay taxes. Plenty of people do not pay taxes. Death, on the other hand, yes, it's coming. It's coming. If we lined up all the people in here, we could go in chronological order, and one by one we'd be gone. That's the truth about death. It levels the playing field. But It sounds weird that death could teach us something about life at first. But listen to this. It is truly a great cosmic paradox that one of the best teachers in all of life turns out to be death. No person or situation could ever reach you or teach you as much as death has to teach you. Listen to this. While someone could tell you that you are not your body, which we have here, no one can show you like death can that you are not your body. While someone could remind you of the insignificance of the things that you cling to, death takes them all away in a second. And while people can teach you that men and women of all races are equal and that there is no difference between the rich and the poor, death instantly makes us all the same. Instantly! It's the one thing. It's the one thing. So what does death have to teach us? Could it be my teacher? Could I learn something from this inevitability, this guarantee of what will happen? Could it teach me something? Here's a little story. Let's say you're living life without the thought of death. Many of us live many years without it. And the angel of death comes to you and says, hey, come on, it's time for you to go. And you say, but no, you're supposed to give me a warning so I can decide what I want to do with my last week. I'm supposed to get one more week. Do you know what death will say to you? He'll say, my God, I gave you 52 weeks the past year alone. And look at all the other weeks I've given you. Why would you need just one more? What did you do with all the ones you had? If asked that, what are you going to say? How will you answer? Would you say, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't think it mattered. That's a pretty amazing thing to say about your life, isn't it? That's a pretty amazing thing to say. What does death have to teach us? Well, it has to teach us that every moment matters. That's what it has to teach us. That the scarcity of life is what death gives us. That should make it this vibrant thing. That's what death should tell us. Not morbid, not fearful. It should be that it's the most amazing thing. That we would notice, like if we really knew we were going to die in a week, we would notice everything and drink everything in a way that we never have before in our life, I would say. We would notice the color of the sky. I was thinking about it on the way over here because of course I wrote this. And I was thinking, isn't it cool how when I press on the gas pedal, my car just goes zoom. Like zoom. And it's smooth, it's nice, you know? It's nice. It's not a new car, it's a 2013. But it goes, it's like boom, goes right there like that. It's so cool to realize that. To realize that I had the window down because it was only like 74 degrees. It's like, man, that's what it would be like if I knew I only had a week left. I would be noticing every single thing. That avocado and egg sandwich I had for breakfast would taste a lot better. That creaminess of the avocado, usually I'm really cool about that. I'm like, oh, this is so good anyway. But if it was my last one, man, I'd be taking it all in. I might have toasted the bread just a little bit more this morning, you know, to give it that crunch. I mean, we'd become hyper aware of everything if we knew that it was our last week. What if we live like that way all the time? Like totally immersed in the moment, like totally just right there. That's what death asked us to do. It asked us to be totally immersed in the moment. The beauty of embracing this deep truth is that you don't have to change your life. You just change how you live your life. It's not what you're doing. It's how much of you is doing it. You hear that? It's how much of you. It's not what you're doing. It's how much you bring yourself to the moment. Are you hearing that? What keeps us from doing that? What keeps us from being immersed in the moment? Like totally immersed in the moment. Like, you know? That was the moment. Well, I have a list. I made a list up for us. Here's the first thing that keeps us from being immersed in the moment, and that is reaching for the next best thing. Right? Like reaching for the next best thing. That takes us out of the moment. That takes us out of the moment. Death says, it'll be here. What about this moment? What about this one? That's what it is. What about this? Waiting for the perfect right moment. Waiting. Just waiting. 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 We're not yet waiting. Waiting. Yeah, that keeps us from being immersed in the moment. What about thinking we have a lot of time left? Most of us in here probably do think that. Maybe some of us who are older don't. But you know you're going to live longer than anybody in your family, no matter what age you are. Right? We have time. There's time for that. There's time for that takes us out of the moment. I think so. What about trying to be sure about it? Let me make sure about it. And let me hesitate until I'm sure about it. I told you there's nothing certain in life except death, right? Okay, you know that already. Let's say there's nothing certain in life except death. That's it. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. How about planning, but afraid to pull the trigger? Or afraid of getting it wrong? Afraid of getting it wrong. I saw this meme on Facebook that applies to this idea of waiting. My ducks are absolutely not in a row. I don't even know where some of them are, and I'm pretty sure one of them is a pigeon. So what? Waiting. So what? Now, some things, ducks in a row, make sense. I like my ducks in a row when I file my taxes, by the way. Now, I'd rather not file them twice or get snagged for something. But really, life, waiting till all your ducks are in a row when you're not even sure that there are ducks or there might be really. Or reaching. You know what? I'm okay with having a bucket list. But I'm not okay not living in between. Because think about the percentage of your life that is spent in between your bucket list items. Do you spend more time on your bucket list items, or do you spend more time living your life? What do you think that percentage is? I think this side has a lot. Spend a lot more time here, putting the checklist together. I don't know. Bucket list is okay, but not enough to take me out of what's in front of me. Or being afraid. Being afraid because you think you're going to be made a fool. Well, I was pretty foolish. Last weekend, Renee and I went to the Cameron Art Museum barbecue and bourbon evening. It was fun. They had great barbecue. They had great bourbon. They had a live band there. We were outside. We were sitting with some old friends and some new friends at a table. We were laughing. We were eating. We were drinking. We were just having a great time. And the band was playing like old rock and roll. 3 guys on guitars and the percussion. They were just like, living it up. And at one point in time, I get up out of my chair. And I can't tell you, I don't know if I've ever done this in my life, but I started playing air guitar. I was just like, I hope nobody has a picture, but I'm afraid Dawn does, wherever she is. And I was just loving it. I don't know what made me do that. I think living life, not being afraid that someone was going to see me. There were plenty of people there to see me. And I just did it. I just did it. Maybe because, no, it wasn't because of the bourbon. Or maybe it was. But it was like, hey, air guitar, I don't know where that came from. But to not be afraid of being foolish. Or that was a moment, an experience that I had I felt free in. I think people facing death are not reaching, and they're not waiting. People who are close to death aren't reaching and waiting. They're not waiting for the right moment. They are just so immersed in the moment that they could play air guitar or they could do whatever it is. And they're not reaching or waiting. They're not reaching or waiting. John Lennon put it this way: life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. All right? Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. This is it. This is what death is trying to tell us. Is this right here. Like, don't be afraid of death. Let it teach you. Let it teach you. That's it. Let it tell you, hey, there is a scarcity of time. There is a finite amount of time that we'll wear these bodysuits. Do I believe that my soul will survive my body? Yes, I do believe that, and I don't know if you believe it, but this body is definitely not going with me. This body is going to be left here somehow, right? Death changes everything in a flash. I think we're probably all old enough to have experienced that. Death changes everything in a flash, and if it does, how precious should the moment be? If death changes everything, how precious should this moment be? It should be extremely precious, shouldn't it? It should be the place we want to be and the people we want to be with and how we want to bring ourselves there. It should be immersed in the moment that we have, not planning for a different moment and miss this. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? I think when we are closer to death, we get braver. We're much more brave. I remember I had cancer in 1994, and I was finished with my treatments in 1996. And I was living in the Washington, D.C. area. I had my career there. And I was just like, you know what? It's too dense here. I had this feeling it's too dense here. So I rented out my condo and I took a camping trip along the East Coast. And eventually, in about a month and a half, I moved here to Wilmington. I didn't have a job. I didn't know a single soul in the whole state. I didn't know anything. And I think because of that experience of cancer and knowing that the woman that sat next to me in group didn't make it and I did, that there was something that I should do and I could be brave about it. And I didn't have to follow some prescription about what it was going to be. I could do what I wanted to do. And I left, I left. And I came here for a while, and then I moved to Utah and I came back. But that's a longer story. But the problem, this thing is, to have the courage. If we let death be our teacher, we can be much more courageous than when we don't. Because this is it, man. There are no do-overs. No do-overs. And we can appreciate. Do you know how we prepare for death? We live life. That's how you do it. How you prepare for death is you live life fully with courage and strength and resilience. I think resilience comes out of our contemplation of death. We talk about people being resilient. We know the people in Western North Carolina will be resilient. We know that we've been resilient after disasters here. We know in our lives that we've been resilient about things that have put us down. We are a resilient bunch because we know what? There's only so much time. We're going to get to it. We are going to get to it. Let me read one more thing here. You should have a healthy relationship with death, and it should not be one of fear. Feel grateful to death for giving you another day, another experience, and for creating the scarcity that makes life so precious. If you do this, your life will no longer be yours to waste. It will be yours to appreciate. That's it right there. To appreciate life. To appreciate it. To walk around, like Megan said, alive and awake. All right, the squirrel hits me with an acorn. Wake up. We don't have to wait for that. It's great when it happens and we don't have to wait for it. Like, wake up now. It's what it means to be enlightened. To be enlightened, to walk around this world and realize the beauty in it. To realize the struggle and the pain and the horribleness of it. All of it. And to be awake to it. And to find my way in it. That's what it's about. That's awakened. That's awakened. That's what awakened means. And when we are awakened, when we wake up to the truth of who we really are and to the truth of the way things are in the world, then that's how we know God. That's what I think. Call it what you will. Call it the divine. Call it the cosmic light force energy of the universe. Call it whatever you want to call it. But that's how we know that. And then that wisdom comes up in us because we created that space for it. Then the wisdom comes and we are enlightened. We are lighter as we walk. We are enlightened by it. That's what it has to do with. Because, you know the quote, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. You see, it has nothing to do with what we do. It has to do with how we bring ourselves to it. You see, death does not change us. We change. We change the way we bring ourselves to life. That's what changes. And that's the gift of contemplating death. Not morbid, but to understand the preciousness of life. So death asks you, do you want to live? And do you want to live fully? Do you want to live fully and filled and fulfilled? I say, yes. Yes, I do. So let's take that into meditation this morning. Take a deep breath in with me, if you will. And let me realize, oh my God, maybe I'm wasting my life. Maybe I haven't brought my full self here yet. This is my chance. This is my chance. I've been distracted by all of this. Let me become focused. Let me realize the preciousness of the moment now. To bring my full awareness right here, to see it in its fullness. To embrace it, however hard it is. To embrace the moment. To awaken to it. To be wide awake. And by being wide awake, to be enlightened. To be at ease. Let's just sit for a few moments in meditation. And we'll close this time together with a reading from Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. Then Almitra spoke, saying, "We would now ask of death." And the prophet said, "You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and sea are one. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered?" And so it is. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be happy. So it is. See you next week.